Now that we've got our heel flap knit, let's go ahead and put a heel turn on it. And the heel turn is the part that turns the corner and goes around where your heel curves from the back of your leg to the bottom of your foot. The first thing I'm going to do here is divide my stitches up into 3 sections. And I've got 25 stitches. So that would be 3 sections of 8 plus 1 extra stitch. So I'll put the extra stitch in the center. So I'll have 8, 9, and 8 stitches. And I'm just going to do this by slipping them across. I'm not knitting or anything. You can do the markers as you're working on the first row of the knitting, but I like to do them separately, so I'm only thinking about one thing at a time. And this is the kind of stitch marker I use a lot. It's just a piece of yarn with a knot tied in it in a contrasting color. In this case, one of the other colors I used on my sock. So that's something you can always use if you are out and about and you don't have any markers handy. So I'm going to put the 9 stitches in the center section, and then I should have 8 more on the end. So now I've got my 3 sections set up, and you can see that pretty clearly. I've attached another color of yarn to knit the heel turn. Normally you wouldn't do that, but again, I like to do things in a contrasting color so you can see what I'm doing. So once you get your sections set up and separated with markers, you'll start knitting, and we're going to knit first up to the markers just to get set up, and then we're going to be knitting back and forth with some decreases to make corners. And you'll see how that works as you go. It's hard to imagine this in your head ahead of time because you're going to be knitting a 3-dimensional shape. But as I do this, you'll see what happens. So first thing we're going to do is just knit plain knitting up to the center section. And I'm just going to slip the first marker onto the needle that is in my right hand. And then I'm going to knit across the middle. Okay, so once I finish that center section, now I'm going to slip the second marker over. And now I am not going to go all the way across here. I'm just going to do a decrease. And that decrease is SSK. So I'm going to slip 1 knitwise, slip 1 knitwise, and then put my left needle in the front and knit those 2 stitches together. And now I'm going to turn, so those will just stay there. Okay, going back, I'm going to start by just slipping the stitch and the marker, and then I'm going to purl. And again, I'm going to purl up to that second marker. I'm going to slide that marker over onto my needle in my right hand. Sometimes the little string markers be a little fussy, but I like them anyway because I always have yarn handy. And now, after we pass that second marker, we'll just purl 2 together. And then we're going to turn. We're going to slip 1 and then knit across this section that's in the middle all the way to that second marker. Whoops, drop a stitch. I'm going to slip the second marker and we're going to do SSK. So we're always going to slip the second marker on the right side, on the knit side, and SSK, and then we turn, and we're going to purl back, again slipping that first stitch and purling back. And on the wrong side, we always purl up to the second marker. Slip that marker and purl 2 together. So we're just going to be working those 2 rows over and over again. And as you can see, this middle section is never going to change, but we're going to decrease on the outsides over and over again until we just have 1 stitch left on the outside of the marker on each side. Here you can see what the heel turn looks like when it's finished. It's kind of like another little rectangle that's joined to our original rectangle with our decreases. And these are our SSK decreases, and here are our Purl Two Together decreases. So now that I've finished, and you can see, as I said, we have one stitch left outside of the markers on each side, I'm just going to do slip one and knit across, and I'm going to take off the markers. And then we'll be done with the heel turn. So just take those off, you don't need them anymore. We'll just knit across. Take that second one off and knit that last stitch. So we finished turning the heel.